Hello and welcome to our 11th video in our seasonal sampler series. In this tutorial, you'll learn to figure out the cutting sizes and the sewing sequences needed to finish piecing this winter sampler. I'll show you a couple ways to do this. One way is to precisely calculate your cutting sizes. Another way is to figure out your pieces based on previously sewn sections. With both of these methods, you'll use straight line sewing and the least amount of cutting. Ready to begin? You can find the supply list below with a link to the snowman cutting directions. You'll also find links to free tutorials for these snowflakes and for this snowman. First, decide on the width and length of your quilt. If you want this to hang inside the quilted frame in this series, your quilt should measure about 18 by 24 inches. I'll be using this size as an example. You'll want to make a little sketch of your project. As you can see, it doesn't have to be fancy. And then I fill it in with my cutting sizes. I always use a C in front of the measurements to remind me that this is the cutting size, and F for the finish size. Usually you'll start with the finish sizes to calculate the cutting sizes, and you'll do this by adding a 1/2 of an inch for the seam allowances. But sometimes you'll need to find the finish size, so you just reverse the operation. So you start with the cutting size and then subtract a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. My snowman measures 15 1/4 inches by 6 1/2 inches. I don't have to cut anything out, but I still use a C in front because it's unfinished. The finished size of this snowman should be 14 3/4 inches by 6 inches. I got that measurement by subtracting 1/4 inch seam allowances from all the sides. There's an extra 1/4 inch at the top and a 1/4 inch at the bottom. Together, that makes a 1/2 of an inch. If I take away a 1/2 of an inch, my finished size will be 14 3/4 inches. The same is true of the width. If I take away a 1/2 of an inch, my finished size will be 6 inches. Let's look at what we have. I like to add some space between here and the top and here and here. The width of these pieces will be 6 1/2 inches. To figure out the height, I could just eyeball this, but I want to show you how to be more precise. To calculate the height of these 3 spacers, you'll start with the finished size of the quilt. The height is 24 inches. Subtract the finished size of the snowman and the finished size of the snowflakes, and you'll end up with 3 3/4 inches. There are 3 spacers, so divide that by 3, and each section will end up being 1 1/4 inches high. To get the cutting size, add a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. These pieces will be 1 3/4 inches by 6 1/2. And I think I'll hold off on adding the bottom piece right now. I've added the top and middle section to the snowman. Now for the 2 side sections. Cut these the same width and length as the snowman. Sew and press. Next, sew the snowflakes together. Add the extra fabric on the sides here. Don't worry about figuring out the precise measurement. Cut 2 pieces the same height as the snowflake, which is 5 1/2 inches. Then eyeball the width needed and add about 1 inch more. Don't worry that it's too big, you'll trim it later. Find the center of the snowman and the snowflakes and pin. Stitch and press. Trim off the excess on the sides. The last piece will be cut as wide as the snowman section. I added a little extra on the bottom just because I might decide to make it a little bit longer, and I can trim it later if need be. So on the bottom section, press and prepare the quilt sandwich. You'll find more detailed instructions for completing your quilt sandwich at the end of the flag video from this series. Just an added reminder, make sure to pin the scarf out of the way when you start quilting. Also, if you decide you don't like the faceless snowmen, you can always add extras after quilting. In the next video for these calendared quilts, you'll move on to the warmer seasons when you learn how to add some flowers to your quilting. Hope you stayed tuned. If you're still looking for more holiday projects, try our Advent tree made from children's handprints. You'll find the links below. So happy you visited learnhowtoquilt.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our patterns and videos with your friends. Thanks.